Alright, good morning. This is day 8, making comics full time. I'm going to try something a little bit different today. So I've recorded my desktop working on this page and we've just sped it up. So the whole page will take about 25 minutes. And what you're watching here is basically I've penciled the page already, but I penciled it before I worked out the character designs, which was quite stupid. So I'm going back in and just tweaking the poses and tweaking the characters to fit the designs which I've worked out. You can see on the left here my referenced image. If you check out my Instagram, you can see that character design for these two characters. And this guy on the left is a kind of mechanic, and he's suiting Jack up for his Astro suit. So Jack Astro is the main character in my comic, and usually he is fully kitted out in a spacesuit, but at the start of the story we see him briefly as a normal guy. He's like a young cadet. He's a young cadet in space school or space army. And so I needed to work out what he looked like out of his suit. And he looks quite a lot like the character from my comic strip, funnily enough. There's just a few tweaks and changes, but he's a young guy who's sort of fresh into the army. And he's signed up for this experimental test pilot scheme. So that is the start of the story. So I'm just taking each layer, I'm taking the previous layer and knocking down the opacity so that I can still see what was on the previous layer in terms of pose, and just tweak it. We've tweaked the proportions of this mechanic quite a bit, so he's a bit more interesting. He's a bit of a larger pear-shaped body and small little legs. Gives him a more interesting shape. I'm just giving a kind of pear shape to his head as well. A bit more of a bushy ginger beard. So you can see in this panel that I'm drawing here, I'm going for a silhouette panel, and I like to use different techniques like this throughout my pages, just to change things up a bit and give it a different style to different pages, or different panels rather. Keeps a bit of visual interest going, switching stuff around. And one sort of tip for character design, a well-known tip, is the silhouette. Being able to recognise your character from silhouette. So it's a good idea to give them distinctive little features that stick out from the main body. I've tried to do that with these as well. But these are these are not main characters really, although Jack is the main character. Once he's in his suit, he looks totally different. So these guys are only in for about 8 pages, I think. Like I said, it's day 8, and I'm working that on 8 working days that I've been just working on this comic, and so far got 8 pages complete. So that's thumbnail, ink, and colour, and shadow, and lettering. So that's a page a day completed, plus we've got about 8 pages on top of that thumbnailed. So productivity is pretty high at the moment. It's going quite nicely. Just got to keep up the enthusiasm, keep up the excitement for this project. So, heading into the inking phase now. I'm happy with the penciling, and we're just going to go over it and shore up the drawings here. I've penciled these pages quite heavily, so they'll more or less look as they've been penciled, but just looks a lot more refined when you ink it. Start figuring out which areas to fill in black as well. Although it's going to be a colour comic, so I don't need to fill in as much black. When you're colouring a comic, it does add a lot to an image to have strong areas of black and white. That's called spotting blacks. So I've added these overalls to this guy's design as well. Thought that worked well for a mechanic to have some grey overalls. And here he is just measuring Jack up for his new suit. For his space suit, his Astro suit. So it's not gone into in the story, but I imagine the Federation recruits a lot of these young cadets for kind of experimental testing, sends them off on highly dangerous missions, and if they come back, if they make it back, then they get paid very well. But it's a bit of a lottery as to who actually comes back safely. So I had a couple of questions about what I'm drawing on. I've got a tablet monitor that is something like a Cintiq, so you draw straight onto the monitor. Well, it's a kind of cheaper alternative called it. The brand is Yugi, UGEE. And I've got the 20, I think it's 24-inch version. I'd have to check that. But it has been absolutely amazing so far. I started off on the Samsung Series 7 Slate with, which is like a portable tablet, and I loved that. That was an absolute workhorse for me. I drew all of my comics on that for three years or so, and then I decided to upgrade to the desktop as the I needed something like a larger screen to draw on, and as soon as I went to the larger screen, I knew that I couldn't go back to the portable. It's okay for taking on holiday and doing some sketching, but for finished art, it's much nicer drawing on the larger monitor. I think for young people learning to draw, though, it's not at all necessary. You can learn to draw on paper. The tools only do so much. But if you're a working professional, if you're making your living from anything to do with drawing, cartoons, animation, it's well worth the investment. And this was a lot cheaper than a Cintiq. Cintiqs at this size, so around about £2,000. Picked this one up for about 450 quid. So, absolute bargain. So, just drawing the sweat droplets coming off of him there. That's the mechanic. He's measuring him down below. Actually, just noticing watching this now that I forgot to put in the red veins on the eyes, on the bulging eyes, so it was worth watching this back just so I can go back in and fill that in. You can see the silhouettes going in, more definition now. The other advantage to doing a panel like this is it's a hell of a lot quicker. So, not that I want to do that for every panel, but it does save time in the long run having a few simpler panels, as well as breaking up the page and style. So I had another question about how I'm recording my desktop. I think there's a lot of options out there for recording. I've got something called XSplit Broadcaster, and they have a free trial, which is what I'm using, and that's been pretty good so far. I tried using one called Cam Studio, and that slowed down my machine chronically to the point where I couldn't even draw anything. So I'd say this XSplit is a good option. if you're looking to do the same. I've taken the video from XSplit and just sped it up in After Effects. So I think this video sped up 80% of the original speed. So as quick a drawer as I am, it's not quite this fast. We're just adding a few details to the silhouettes there. You'll see me try out a few different techniques in this story, along the same lines of the silhouette panel, but with more colour. Experimented a lot with that kind of thing in my comic strip as well. So that's been a good testing ground for different styles. So we're on to colouring the page now, and because I've got a split screen monitor, you can't see, I've taken my reference images and put them on the other screen just so I had a full I had the full screen to draw on, but I'm picking the colours off of the previous page. Just to get the consistency. This stage of the process is really quite easy and relaxing. So the actual thumbnailing and penciling of the page is probably the toughest part for me. That takes the most thinking and brain work. So over Christmas and New Year and a few days after, just concentrating on some of the easier work just to keep me moving forward. So if anybody's got any questions, either stick them in the comments, or you can email me, dougwilson83@hotmail.com, and I'll try and get to your question in the next video. If anybody's got any requests for what they'd like to see me working on as well, I can do one of these for comic strip, and at some point I'll get around to doing one for some animation as well. I'm working on 2D animation with my comic strip characters, and that's about 40-50 seconds long. But obviously, because it's animation, it's going to take weeks to finish it. Well, I'm trying to concentrate on this comic at the moment. You can see the little ribbons on the cadet's uniform there, trying to keep some sort of consistency with the outfits. And I went in and added his tie in here to the silhouette, and then I decided that it didn't really look right. Kind of ruined the silhouette of him pointing with the measuring tape, so I got rid of that. Just assume it's tucked into his trousers. So I've just added a layer on top of everything there, some green layer, and then stuck it on overlay blend mode, and on about 45% opacity as well, and that just gives a slightly green tint to everything. It's because they're in a green room. You can see me switching between it there. It just gives the feeling that that green light is bouncing onto the characters, so it gives a kind of uniform colour to, or it brings all of the colours together in quite a quick and easy method. That's a good shortcut tip there. Just adding shadows now, and just some little shadow detail adds a huge amount to the picture. It really gives it some volume, brings it to life. Not particularly brilliant at bringing out volume in shadow, but I've developed this kind of simple style that I think works quite well. Again, it's a lot of stuff that I've developed in my comic strip and then applied out to this comic. It shows that it's worthwhile doing a regular comic strip, just in terms of developing your style and experimenting and trying out new things. So we're almost finished with this page now. Just a couple panels left. And let me know what you think. Let me know if you preferred the longer, more rambling video, or if you like the speeded up version. And I'll see you at the next one.